Alrighty, so we've had a few weeks off, mostly just because we have very busy lives and schedules at the moment. But we're back, and it's with a fun one for episode 12. It's another random show, where we basically have a good old chit chat about what's on our minds in the land of health and fitness. We cover Whoop, and spoiler alert, there's some traitors in the midst. Lewis. We also get into a discussion about personal health metrics, which ones we find important, and also the dangers of overanalyzing them. We talk about my recent back injury and how I'm dealing with that setback. And we also have an interesting discussion on the minimum effort needed to maintain muscle mass and cardio fitness, and how that can help you think about the big picture of results. Quick one before we jump in. As usual, you can support the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or by giving the episode a thumbs up on YouTube. This helps spread our content further on those platforms, so it's super helpful to us. And if you want to get notified when new episodes are out, follow or subscribe to our channel from wherever you listen to it. Okay, enjoy the episode.
I think the backwards cap is back in now, though, isn't it? I've seen a few people rocking the backward hat.
Yeah, it's back in for a particular demographic of individuals. Daniel is in that demographic. I mean,
no, it's because
Rich just can't make it work, and he's not happy about it. But that's okay.
I've seen a few
Daniel,
people.
you can't make it work either, buddy. I don't know where you're going.
It's I forget who it was recently that I've seen. I think maybe Rich Froning was rocking the backward hat.
I mean, to be fair, Rich Froning can
do whatever he wants.
He can do what the hell he wants. Like, it's Rich Froning. I mean, Daniel ain't Rich Froning. I'm just putting it out there. Like,
better. He's better.
Yeah. Right, let's get stuck in. We've had how many weeks have we had off now? Like 3 or 4, bit of a hiatus, right?
Yeah, I think it's been about a month.
Yeah, it's just
feels like
really
ages.
busy for us all.
Yeah,
it's going to be good to catch up, and I think what we'll do is a bit of a random show today. We'll do a random show today. I think next week we might have a guest on, and we're going to be talking about alcohol, which would be pretty cool. We'll have like pretty good and differing views around that. And then I think we get to squeeze one more episode in before Christmas, which is probably a good idea to talk about how we're tackling the holiday period in terms of training and eating and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll just do a bit of a random show today, shall we?
Good plan. I'm very excited about our guest next week, by the way. Are we not going to reveal too much? I think that'll be great.
We've reached peak podcast level. We don't have guests coming on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
yeah.
That's
your cousin, Barry, right?
Yeah, cousin Barry.
Yeah,
going to join us next week.
Yeah.
I think that'd be good fun.
Yeah, Rich doesn't know Barry. Obviously, Barry's a good friend. I've worked with Barry and a good friend with him, and he's Lewis's cousin as well. And he's actually just hit 6 months sober.
So he's given up whilst Daniel's disappeared.
So it'll be
looks like
cool to chat to him.
I don't know if that's that uploading thing. It happens every single time.
You cut out for a bit, Daniel.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I was just saying, Barry just hit 6 months sober, which is pretty interesting.
So 6 months, no drinking at all?
6 months, not a drink.
Wow.
I'm like 2.5 years.
That's very impressive.
5 or 6
Which is
days.
like 2 days. Yeah, 2 days, 2-3 days.
I was going to say, I had a drink on Sunday on 4 days. So that'd be a good session. It'd be a good one next week.
Yeah.
It's a random show.
Cool.
What would be good to go? Anything new that you guys have uncovered, unpacked, started doing, or anything like that? Health wise, gym wise, anything?
We should discuss the fact that Daniel's broken.
Yes. Unfortunately.
I mean, his internet's broken, but Daniel himself is broken. I believe that is. It's been an unfortunate month of training.
I'm going to have to do something to fix up my internet. It's been a bit slow lately.
Are we going to talk about your back, Daniel, the injury?
Yeah, we can do. I wanted to try and squeeze in your angriness at Whoop, but we can start with my back if you want.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to talk about. I forgot about that.
Let's start with your angriness about Whoop. It's funnier.
Let's do that because it's actually weirdly I've also changed my view on Whoop since that angriness as well. So
me too a little bit as well.
You go first. You are a spark of inspiration for me on the Whoop side, actually.
It's so ridiculous.
So you're taking legal action against Whoop, right? For your recovery scores.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're tooling up.
So I ended up just going on a real rant on like a WhatsApp message, I think, with the two of you, where I just
It was like 2 in the
Let
morning, a
Whoop,
bottle of
yeah.
wine down. You were just
Yeah.
letting loose.
So I let it rip. I was like, I'm getting really annoyed with Whoop. So here's the thing that I was getting really bothered with Whoop about. And so I'd wake up in the morning and it would tell me my recovery score. Well, there was two things that really irritated me. One, I think I'm going to start, is the sleep. Because I don't know, it's a real sensitive subject for me. And I think I've openly spoken about sleep before, purely because I'm a dad of 3 and they're like 7, 4 and 1. So I'm rarely going to get optimal sleep. So for me, it's like, I just have to soldier on and like crack on. But the thing that Whoop was really pissing me off about was I would get a message at 7:05 in the evening or something ridiculous like that. And it'd say, in order to achieve your like good measure or metric on your sleep metrics, we recommend going to sleep. And I'm like, on what planet am I going to go to bed at 7:05? Because because I've got it that my alarm's set for 5. And it's like, you need to be in bed for 10 hours. And I'm just like, it just started really irking me because I was getting these messages saying that I need to be in bed by 7 p.m. And I'm like, it's just not going to happen. So that was one bit. The sleep thing just annoyed me. And then the second bit was on the recovery scores. So there was a week where I recently moved home. So sold a place, bought a place. And for the couple of weeks before then, it was obscenely busy with just packing boxes, staying up late, just lifting stuff, moving stuff. My strain score was insane. So it was fully active. But every day it was telling me my recovery was really, really low. But I was feeling great. And I was looking at it and I was like, it's telling me my recovery's 20%, for example, and saying you should really take it easy. And I was like, but I feel really good. So I think it was just kind of messing with my mind because it was telling me one thing of, oh, you should take it easy, you're not feeling great, when actually I was feeling as though I could really go for it. And it was just kind of messing with me a bit. So that's why I just kind of ended up ranting. So I think the thing that I actually quite enjoy with Whoop, the only thing I do like is the strain score. And that just tells me how physically active I've been. Two things actually, I like that. And the second bit I like is I think you've mentioned this before, Daniel, around the activity tracking and calorie burn. I do think it's super accurate. So it tells me my activity and how many calories I've burnt for that day. So I'm just trying to make sure I eat enough so that I'm actually not wasting away. Because on those days of the moving, I was hitting like 4,000 calorie burns, like 4,500 calories, which is just obscene. So my maintenance is 2,000. And it was just non-stop lifting boxes and moving and doing stuff. So those two things I like. The sleep and recovery, not so much. So that was my rant. So what did you guys, how have you guys changed your thoughts on everything then?
So I think let's kind of go back a little bit to when that rant started. And my initial reaction to your rant was just like, you just don't like hearing the truth. I was like, Ruth's just telling you what you don't want to hear, which is, dude, you need more sleep. Like that was my initial reaction, was just like, if it's telling you need that amount of sleep, it's probably because you do need it. Now, I totally agree. You're never going to go to bed at 7 p.m. because like it's just never going to happen. But I kind of felt like it probably is probably more that you don't want to hear it versus it being wrong. Like in kind of that kind of realm. But I had a moment probably about 2 weeks ago. I was like, actually, why the hell am I even using Whoop? Because I was like, well, I don't really care about its recovery score. It doesn't change what I'm going to do on a daily basis. I know if I have a drink the night before, it goes red. And if it doesn't, I sleep well, it stays green. I mean, my workout, it doesn't tell me if I'm going to work out or not. I am going to be doing my workouts on my schedule. It doesn't affect that. So the only thing it really does is it kind of allows me to see, as you say, like the calorie burn, its estimated calorie burn, which I then use to make sure I'm either in a deficit or a surplus, depending on what my kind of goals are at the time. And so I've got to a point where I was like, actually, it's kind of getting a bit annoying. I have this thing on my wrist. It's kind of annoying to keep it charged. I'm looking at it less and less and less. Like I don't even, it used to be every day I'd look at it 2 or 3 times, to a point now where I'm looking at maybe once or twice a week and not caring, to where I'm actually at a point where I'm thinking I'm taking it off. Like I think I'm done. I think I used it to get my habits to a place where it made sense and kind of became habitual. But actually, since your little kind of burst, it's forced me to just like ask him a couple of questions, and I was like, actually, my habits are so well formed. It doesn't. I don't think I don't know what I'm going to be using it for really. Like, and yes, I get the whole like calorie burn thing, but like, I think we're all fairly tuned in at this point. I generally know if I've had an active day or not. I generally know how much I burn on a daily basis. Like, I know if I'm doing an hour's worth of zone 2, it's going to be a 3 to 3,200 day with 10,000 steps generally. And I know if I'm doing a weight training day, I'm going to be around a 2,500 day. I'm kind of it's so consistent. And if I do nothing and sit on my arse all day, it's a 2,000 calorie day. Like I don't think I need it, frankly. And I think my diet's under such good control that I think I've used it to get to a place where my habits are strong enough where now I don't see the benefit for me at this point in time. And a month ago I would have sworn by it. I would have said it's essential to my kind of fitness like routine. And now actually I've as of yesterday, like literally last night before this call, I was thinking about it. I think Lewis might be on something here a little bit. Like actually, like I'm sorry. So I reckon what I'm going to do for this Christmas period, because I'm going to take it off and just not have it for a few weeks and see how I feel. But I've got a feeling having less data may feel actually a little bit nicer at this point. I'm still going to calorie track because I find that incredibly useful. Like I actually do use that pretty substantially because I think I naturally would overeat otherwise. I think even though I have a very strict diet and whatever, I still naturally kind of head towards 3,000 calories a day quite happily. So calorie tracking is still very important for that piece of data. But Whoop wise, yeah, I think I'm taking it off. I'm going to live without it for a month and see how we go on.
You make a really good point in there though, and it was really useful up until your habits got nailed in and dialed in. So, and it's like everything. You use it as long as it's useful for. You use it for the amount of period that you actually need it, and then after that, it's like actually habits are dialed in. Probably don't need to do it anymore. So your point on that, I think, is spot on. And so one thing I'll add as well is one thing I really was curious about was what my metrics were as well. So what my heart rate variability was, what my resting heart rate is, just to get a general sense of where am I at. And now I know it's something that I could probably take off for 6 months, put it on again in 6 months' time and think, is it still the same? Is it tracking similarly? It doesn't have to be an everyday thing. So I think to your point around getting the habits dialed in, those is really useful.
Yeah, sorry, and your point there is great with HRV. Sorry, Dan, I know you were about to say a word. But I did indeed use it on the heart thing as well because I love seeing my heart metrics improve over time. Like my resting heart rate, when I'm in the zone, you can just see it week by week, just dropping and dropping and dropping. And then when I get out of it, like due to illness or due to going on holiday, you can see it starting to creep back up. So I think that's great and it's useful, but in the grand scheme of things where I'm at today, does it really fundamentally benefit me anymore? No, I don't think it does. And therefore having extra data inputs is just another piece of noise. And I'm not sure I need that extra noise. So yeah, I look initially, like I say, when you said it, I was like, I'm not sure. And now I'm kind of like, hey, you know what? Maybe I think the man might have been onto something, and I think I've come your direction.
there's a lot of truth in what you said, though. I didn't want to hear it, and I didn't want to see it, and that's just me, just thinking I'm a soldier. That's me thinking. I'd rather have David Goggins in my ear. I'd rather have him in my ear saying, "Get out of bed, you pussy! Get out of bed! Go for a run! Do something hard." I'd rather have that.
Not giving your body will not fail you.
Than telling me, "Oh, take it easy. Go to bed at 6:30."
I think I'm probably somewhere in the middle. And again, like Rich, like you, when I first heard Lewis's rant, I was probably the same as you. I'm like, Lewis is just not liking what it's telling him. Like, and even just right now, you're like, I love the strain bit, but I just don't like the sleep bit. But that's because you're an absolute beast and your strain is really high and your sleep is low. So like, there's that, right? You just like what you want to like, and you don't like what you don't want to like. So I wonder
if anyone else tells you to go to bed, do you have that same reaction? If Amelia goes, "Hey, you need to be in bed tonight early," do you have the same reaction? Yeah. A visceral, "Stay away! Don't tell me what to
do."
I might actually get to where you're at, Rich, actually, where I might just kind of take 30 days off just to kind of see how it feels and to kind of like strip the noise back. there are definitely some things with Whoop that I still find really, really useful. Like I actually don't put that much stock in the recovery score. It's just a custom algorithm by Whoop anyway, right? Like that's just made up. There is definitely an element of like, if my habits are on track and I'm sleeping well and I'm feeling pretty good, it will be green. If I have a shit night's sleep, if I was to drink, which I don't do anymore, but like I would see it immediately in the red. So like, but I probably know that anyway. So there is an element of like broadly, I think that the recovery score is fairly accurate, and it could be useful. I think to kind of like have a sense of whether you should be pushing it or whether you should be resting. But I think for people that are pretty in tune with habits and know what they're doing, you know where that's going anyway, right? But there's a bunch of things that I still find useful for it. So I still use the real-time heart tracking for zone 2, which I find really useful to kind of keep my heart rate at about 130, 135. And I'm often dialing that up and down during a zone 2 session, of which I'm doing a couple of hours of a week. So I find that really useful. I like the resting heart rate and the HRV trend, like you do, Rich. Like, for example, again, I probably know it anyway, but with hurting my back and then my activity going down and there being a little bit of a slip on some of the food stuff, my resting heart rate has ticked up and my HRV has ticked down. And again, I kind of probably knew that, but it's nice just to see it because it gives me a little bit of a jolt to be like, look, I've got to keep my habits on track. Otherwise, this trend is going to continue and I don't like that. And I've got to try and get back to the activity. And it's just a nice reminder that actually physical activity, ignore all of the habits actually, physical activity to me seems the number one indicator as to whether my resting heart rate is low and my HRV is up. Because as soon as I step back from it, like with my back injury, the numbers started to reverse. And I think, Rich, like when you had your Murph moment as well, that also happened for you when you had to back off and not do a lot, your things switched. And again, when you go and do the holiday and things like that. So again, sometimes these things, I use them for more like quite subtle reminders of what's important rather than get too over the top on what is telling me like day to day. And then the other thing I find really important still is the sleep. And that's probably because I know that I'm so much more sensitive to sleep than other people. So for me, it's really important that I get my sleep, and it can be easy for me to kind of like get some sleep and then I don't quite appreciate how much sleep I've had. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, wow, that's 5.5. Like, yeah, I didn't quite appreciate. I went to bed a bit too late and woke up a bit too early, or like I woke up too many times in the night. I'm like, that's a reminder. I'm in bed for 9 p.m. the next day because I want to counterbalance. I can't have a couple of 5.5s on a row because for me, I start to get anxious and I will probably be more open to injury because I'm just more sensitive to a lack of sleep. So I still find like 4 or 5 things about it pretty useful, but I totally agree. Like as soon as you start to overanalyze this stuff and start trying to use it to do day-to-day like recommendations, which is kind of what Whoop tells you should do, but I just think that's marketing nonsense. Like end of the day, I find it subtly useful on a number of levels, which means I'll probably keep it. But yeah, maybe trying a 30-day no noise experiment sounds pretty interesting too.
Sounds like you've got it pretty well balanced though, with how you're managing it and looking at it. I guess I was just getting annoyed by it when actually I should just not pay that much attention and just use it for the things that I like. Yeah.
I mean, it's you take it literally, right? I think I'm one of those where I've got the data, I start getting a little bit literal. I mean, I think if you remember, Daniel, when I first got onto Whoop, because it was you that introduced me to it probably 18 months ago, and actually I struggled for the first 6 weeks. I would take it quite literally. Like, what do you mean I've done this today? What do you mean 2,300 calories? Sod off, I've been hiking. That's not true. Like it would be like or because it's useless at weight training stuff. And my old training regime had very little, like I used to do actually kind of similar to you. I'd do strength days and cardio days completely separately. So my strength would just literally be in the weights room for an hour and a half. So your heart rate doesn't really get above, 100, 110 because I would just do kind of very traditional weight training, like Olympic lifting stuff. And then Whoop would be like, oh, you've only burnt 2,200 calories a day. Yet I was starving because I spent an hour in the weights room. So like for me, I really struggled with Whoop on that side. And I think, Danny, when you're saying it like the recovery thing, what I've actually learned is I kind of ignore recovery now because I actually have some of the best workouts. I have some of the best workouts and got low recovery. And actually I know if I'm not feeling great, like I was at a wedding, I think a couple of weeks ago, and I drank too much. Let's just put it that way. Friend's wedding, too much. So the next day, my recovery was 8%. 8. Single digit 8%. I was very red. So it's like, oh, you must rest up today. That was the wrong thing. What did I didn't rest up. I hit the gym as hard as I could do. I hit the bike and I sweated out for 90 minutes. And I felt amazing afterwards because that was what I needed to go do.
Yeah.
So for me, it's almost like there's a counter. It's not as intuitive, I don't think, as we might. I think Jamie said it oversimplifies. I think in that situation, my recovery was 8%. It's saying I should go and do nothing all day and sleep. But actually, the right thing to do was to go and just really work out hard and get your body back on track. So, yeah, I think it's a balancing act. I agree with Daniel, everything you said there, that especially around kind of the heart rate monitoring and the HRV stuff, and I think it's very useful. I think for me, I've just decided I am going to do a 30-day cold turkey, not use it, and just see what changes and if I'm happier or less happy without having it.
That's a good idea.
Good plan. I just want to say I'm so impressed with your 8% recovery score. That you must have had a great night at the wedding. Like, that is really quite impressive. That's
by the
the
way,
lowest I've ever seen.
On Saturday night, I had like a case of insomnia type of thing. So I had 2 hours sleep, and I was 4% the next day.
No.
Oh, I don't think
I was like checking for a heartbeat. 4%. I'll send you a screenshot of it.
Mind you, because the way it works out, right, is about how much your HRV's dropped, or your resting heart rate's gone up, or your respiratory rate's gone up. The lowest I had was COVID. Like, COVID took me down to 3%, maybe even 2%. I have to look it up. Like, that was the lowest, and this is my second lowest. We can talk about this next week. I don't drink very often, so when I do drink, it hits pretty hard. That's just what happens. So, like, I hadn't had alcohol for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then I went to a friend's wedding with some other friends. And, we started at midday and it just went on a little bit longer. You know how weddings go. And the next day was ugly. And so, it was right. My recovery should have been red. I didn't feel brilliant. But,
4%.
Yeah, I think sleep has the biggest impact on recovery score, which is one largely to do with the Whoop algorithm. But also there's an element of truth, right? When you drink, we know that your body is not really going to get into the more deeper restorative sort of periods of sleep. And that's going to bring your HRV down, and it's going to bring your resting heart rate up. And the same goes for me. I have 2 hours of sleep. Like, when you sleep for 2 hours, all you do is get light sleep. You're not getting into REM sleep. You might get a little bit of deep sleep if you're lucky. So again, it just screws everything up. So, whether it's 4% or 8%, it is a good indication. It's like, you're kind of like, you don't want to do that again. Otherwise you're going to find yourself ill.
Here's something interesting when we think about Whoop and recovery. So my wife is a paramedic, as you guys know. So she works shifts. That's just the nature of being, a frontline 999 paramedic. So she's always on shift patterns. Like, then they're really horrible shifts. Like, they're kind of 12 hours. They're like 9 at the night till kind of 9 in the morning. They're just, and they're changing. 4 on, 4 off. So she never has stable sleep ever. And her recovery is always around 15-20%. And and it has been. She's been on Whoop for a year or so. I got her on Whoop so we can kind of keep an eye on it. It hasn't affected. Like, sure, she's tired now and again, and then certain days when she has a day off, she'll sleep for like 16 hours and catch up, whatever. But she's still functioning fine, and she's still in the gym, 3-4 times a week. It hasn't actually made massive difference, even though Whoop effectively says that she's always operating at 20%. She's not any more sick. She's not, like, there's no lack of energy. Like, I don't know. There is an element of that which kind of swaying me a little bit, which is like, how. Shift things are terrible for you, and it's a temporary thing for her. It's terrible for you, and I'm not trying to say it's not. It's just more that the recovery is always really, really poor, but she still functions and has been functioning fine for well over a year at this point. So
that's where I think it's probably only looking at one side, and you can look at it on the flip side, where you could say that I know when Becca, I think she was doing a paramedic job before she got the Whoop, right?
Yeah.
So what would happen if now she just got a different job, slept a more regular pattern, started to get greens? Would she actually get better results and feel better? And again, the same is true for you, Lewis. Like, you, for a long time, you've been pushing your body incredibly hard, and you haven't been sleeping that long because of kids and life and stuff like that. Like, it is what it is. But what would happen if you actually did prioritize your sleep and you did dial down the intensity a little bit? You don't know what that experiment would do for you. You might feel better, and you might get more gains. Like,
Here's where I look at it, though. Yeah. So I think so. This is such an interesting Whoop discussion, by the way. Like Whoop need to listen to this. They need to. They need to update their algorithm to make it individual specific. So, for instance, for my example of, I can still hit a strain of 20, sleep at X, and my recovery is this. It should calculate my recovery score based on what I've previously done, and saying, actually, for you, given that you have done that, and exactly to your example as well, Rich. For your missus, it's actually, she's a paramedic. Even with these scores, she's still able to do X, Y, Z. So maybe her recovery is better. So I'd probably flip it and say it probably needs to be more amended.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That doesn't sound right.
But
so I suppose I'm going to interject there a little bit, because I think the algorithm is almost, I think it has the same for almost everybody, because it's based on pure kind of stats, right? Heart rate, HRV, sleep, whatever, and they're kind of standard. But I think the difference here, and Daniel, you touched a bit on this with your sleep, is I actually think it misses the mental component that we're all very unique and individual at. So, for example, let's take yourself, Lewis. I think physically, it's probably right. You know what? You probably are not as recovered. But mentally, because you have to work out every day, and if you didn't, you would feel terrible, because, you know, that is who you are. I think what happens is, like, the mental side takes over, and that's how you feel. And I think my wife's kind of similar, which is she loves her job. I mean, loves it. So her not doing that and doing normal shifts, I reckon we would say, yes, you're much more recovered, but she wouldn't be as happy. And that happiness, that mental stability, is what then pulls her through and makes her actually feel better. I think I'm kind of like, if I think about myself as well, like, Woot might say, hey, you're not very well recovered. I love being out in the rain and the shit and doing stuff that I know most other people wouldn't do, or being on that bike at 6 a.m. and just like racing on it, or whatever it might be, because mentally it puts me in a really good space, and then I feel a lot better. So I think Whoop is such a good physical indicator, but I think actually it misses, and I don't think it ever could get, is kind of the mental side of all of these things. And like Daniel, you said with your sleep, you feel anxious for not having much sleep or whatever else. I don't suffer from that personally. I can go, as you know, when we've worked together, I can quite happily go and miss a night's worth of sleep. That isn't a thing for me. Like, it is fine. So, and I wouldn't get any anxiety from it. I mean, I'd have to catch up a few days later, but like, it isn't a thing for me. But for you to do that, that would really hit you. Now, our Whoop score might be identical, because we're both, you know, our heart rates and whatever else. But mentally, I think it's in a slightly different place. And so I don't know whether Whoop ever could do that, right? I think that's kind of that's the uniqueness, which I think we all have to kind of just accept.
Unless it asks your question of how you're feeling. So
how are you feeling? I think doesn't it do that with stage reporting?
If you switch a journal on, I switched my journal off a while ago.
Yeah,
I think there is a journal thing where it can
on the status reports, journal thing.
Yeah. But Rich, I think that's the right way to think about it. Like, and that's where it comes to, like, everybody is a unique person, and that's why, like, if you can step back from being so analytical about it and just look at that dashboard, but then make your own decisions and detach yourself and not get too bent out of shape about it, you can use it well. I think if you start trying to get it to factor in, I think basically what you're asking, Lewis, is for Whoop just to kind of sort of slightly tell you what you want to tell you.
Yeah, I want to tell me what I want to hear.
But at the end of the day, what it's telling you is, like, resting heart rate and HRV and the key metrics that it uses, respiratory rate and things like that, like, these are baseline health biomarkers, right? So, like, you can't argue with those things. So, like, so and that's what
yes, you can.
You can argue with the algorithm, but what Lewis is saying, like, no, I just like smashing my body and not sleeping much. So I'd prefer if you just, like, tailor it to me. Can you just, like, give me a 30% uplift on my recovery, please?
It's so true. That's so true.
He has to dial up the ratio.
Nailed it. So true. Just tell me what I want to hear.
Let's shift on to something different.
Funny.
We could talk about my back injury. We won't talk. I wrote something about it, so I'll put a link to the article, so we won't go into too much detail. But yeah, it sucks. Like, 3 weeks ago, and it's super ironic, I went to see a back specialist to get more advice around my back. Like, my back was feeling great. I just wanted more advice around, over the long term, things I could do to kind of improve what felt like still I'm working around things and trying to kind of lower the risk in terms of exercise selection and stuff like that. But yeah, like, it was ironic that I went to see a back specialist. He gave me some good confidence that I can improve my back over the longer term. And then literally 2 days later, I get a gigantic twinge, and I'm still feeling it. Like, I know that when I twinge my back like bad in the gym, that's a 6-week recovery. It's 1 to 2 weeks of walking and twinges. It's another couple of weeks of sort of like tightness, but like starting to get back into the gym and doing things. And then there's usually another couple of weeks that it takes to get it back to the point where like I can still feel there's some risk, as I have always felt, but I can easily work around it and work very, very hard if I'm careful, which is where I was like 3 weeks ago. And now I'm 3 weeks into a 6-week-ish kind of recovery. So like for me, December is like get better. Like I'm back in the gym now doing things, some zone 2 and it all like more like interval stuff on the bike. I'm doing some exercises, but I'm not back on my normal training regime, and that won't happen until January. So yeah, that's caused me to be 6 weeks out, which is super annoying. But I guess as yeah, go on, Liz.
I was just gonna say, I was very impressed at how you approached it from a mental standpoint, because I would have been so pissed off. Whereas you I think you got annoyed, but then processed it, and you were like, "It is what it is. I know what I need to do," and you were just so cool with it. I was
pissed. I was super pissed to start with, because I hadn't had that for 18 months, and I've been able to really effectively train around it for a long, long time. So yeah, I was really pissed for like 1 or 2 days, but then you just had to be like, right, I've got to get my head into the right space and approach these next 4 to 6 weeks in a way where I can get back to where I need to be as quickly as possible. And I outlined it in the article, but like, there's a whole bunch of things you get from actually getting an injury, which you can sort of take the silver lining of. Like, the biggest learning for me is the reason I'm pretty sure like 99% of the reason I got the injury is because I changed my warm up. Like I took the exercises that the back specialist gave me, and we had a conversation, and we decided like, let's use that as my warm up going forward. But just because if I attach it to 5 workouts, I'm going to get it done 5 days a week, right? So why not have that as my workout, but as my warm up? And I did that, and it's not a coincidence that the first time I did that, that's what caused my back pain, and it made me realize like my actual warm ups, they are exactly what I need to be prepared for the session ahead. And as soon as I skip that, and we make like fun of my warm-ups, but a 20-minute walk combined with like 20-25 minutes of like very like of dynamic warm-up exercises that like get my hips loose, or if I'm doing overhead stuff, I can get my shoulders loose and things like that. That makes me feel that that's exactly what I need to take the risk away. And the moment I skipped it is the moment I get back injury. So like, at least like, that's a massive, massive learning for me. And even now that I've been back in the gym like last week, man, I am like twice as diligent around my warm up. I'm doing it really slow, really, really focused on it. I'm just like, I know that this is what keeps injury away, as well as a bunch of other things. Right?
How long are your workouts now, though? If your warm ups are now twice as long as they already were, I mean, this must be like a 3-4 hour session.
Twice as long.
Not twice as long. I said twice as diligent. So like I am really thinking about it. I'm being very mindful about it and intentional. I'm just I just know that like it's a massive investment. If I want to stay injury free and I want to get the most out of my workouts, I need to do a 30-35 minute piece at the beginning, getting really, really ready for it. And I mean, and it literally. It is so crystal clear to me. You've got to remember, like I've been doing hack squats with a landmine for like 6 weeks, progressively getting stronger, feeling really, really great as an exercise, not one twinge, nothing comfortable. If anything, I was telling like Jamie, the personal trainer, these feel great. And then I literally skip the warm up, which has like, Lewis, like it has that like hip opener, the greatest like stretch in the world, that one. It has like, has lots of lunges, has Samson stretch in it, like a lot of stuff that opens up the hips and like stretches out the hamstrings and just gets you moving and nice and warm for that movement. Like a good example, again, it's slightly boring warm-up stuff, but again, it's got the touch your toes and then just go overhead. And on the first rep of 3 rounds, I cannot touch my toes. I get to like halfway down my shins. And by the 3rd round of warm-up, I'm easily touching my toes. So it just goes to show, like, it really gives me a lot more range of motion by the time I finish the warm-up. The first descent of the first rep, my back went. It just wasn't ready for it. Like, and again, most people wouldn't necessarily have that level of sensitivity, right? But that's just me. It's my back issue, and it's what I need to do, right? So the thing I'll take from this is like, it's not nice to have a 6 weeks of a step backwards, but I've just been given the absolute best reminder of how important it is for me to do those warm-ups. So that's the learning from it.
And how spot on your warm-up is specific for you as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
so we are where we are.
Is it feeling a bit better?
Yeah, I'm in that kind of like even right now as we talk, I can feel constant pain in my lower back. Like it's like a 0.5 out of 10, right? So it's more just like a low level stiffness. And I get it. It mostly is from standing still in one spot for too long, which I'm doing at the moment, or getting onto the floor and getting back up. Like that's where the risk is, but it's so much better than what it was 3 weeks ago. I'm doing like 30-minute intervals on an air bike. I'm doing like just a moving gently sort of workout for 30 minutes that has like wall sits, air bike, active hangs,
so you're able to do some decent stuff then. 30-minute
like
intervals on the bike.
Yeah,
that's a like workout in itself.
I'm doing them at like 68 RPM, and so I'm moving quick.
How many calories do you burn in the 30 minutes on the air bike?
I think it's like 250 or something.
Just good going.
Each 5-minute interval actually is 45 calories, so that's 90, 180. It's about 220, 230. No, I'm doing like intervals, so there's
so 5 minutes on.
That's not all. Yeah, exactly. It would be more otherwise. No, it's not 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off. But
straight.
I do 5 minutes where I do minute 1, 50 seconds, 10 rest, and then 40 seconds, 20 rest, and then 30, 30. Then it reverses. So like over the course of a 5-minute period, I actually probably only work out half. But yeah, it's a nice little set of intervals. So it lasts half an hour, but you're probably only on the bike actually for half the time, and half of it is rest.
Nice one.
About 220, 230 calories. So.
Sorry, Dan, just and by the way, like, I know this has happened to you several times now, and obviously you went and saw a back specialist, but beyond this, the warm-ups and whatever else, like, is there actually a path to solution? Or is this just a lifelong thing now you've got? It's just like, hey, you've got an issue with the disc or whatever the actual issue is, and tough shit, you just got to be mindful of it from now on? Or is there a path that they might say, oh, actually, this can be fixed?
Yeah, the guy was pretty confident that if I invest the right kind of time in the right things, I can get to the point where like it might not necessarily be like 100% normal, but it is not something that needs surgery, and it's something that can get very, very close to me being able to do more unpredictable things. That's where the definition is. Like at the moment, my training is incredibly predictable and really like straight, right? Like I'm not taking much risk at all. The risk comes from like if I go play tennis, if I go play football, if I do these things that are very unpredictable and like are more spontaneous and moving around. And it's like I absolutely think that you can get to the point where you can do that with a low amount of risk. But in my, I think it's like the L5 and the S1, like the bottom two actually, there's a leaking in those, and there's also inflammation that's touching kind of the nerve as well. So he's given me like a bunch of exercises that I have to start doing, and do those for a month, and then go back to him, and then I can progress and do different things. But it's like if you build up that kind of core and the back, it's like I think you can do those things without much risk at all. So that's the other thing. Like, once I get this sorted, I can be back in the gym in a on rails, training program that's going to have a very, very low risk of hurting my back. And in parallel to that, I can do the work that's going to help improve my back for the longer term and hopefully get me to the point where the risk is low in doing those things. It's just I'm stupid in a way that like I went to see him and then all of a sudden I've made a mistake, and now I'm in pain to the point where I'm not even really able to invest in the program that he gave me to improve my long-term back, because it's like it would be too intense on my back at the moment. But with December out the way, December is just a get ready, and then from January I'm going to be back to training normally, and rather than substitute my warm-up for the exercises he gave me, I'm just going to find a way to do them 3 to 5 times a week around it. I'll put them at the beginning of my zone 2 as an extra thing. So at least I've got like 2 points in the week where I will do them, and then I'll do them another couple of times outside of it. And then I'll be not only back to training, but I'll also be working on the long-term health of my back. So just December is get better month.
Good.
Yeah.
And maybe not do that again.
Maybe not do that again, right?
Get your money back.
Exactly.
Mate, do I get
Exactly.
refunded for that session? I mean, I fucked up my back for
Yeah,
like 6 weeks. Do I? What's going on here?
yeah,
Do you know
exactly.
what though? There's a
It's
lesson
super
there, right?
ironic.
Which there's irony in it, but there's also this kind of lesson around this uniqueness we kind of touch on a little bit,
Mm.
and like as we've all discussed, right? I mean, Daniel's got your kind of funny back thing. I've got my back thing. Lewis, I know you've got historic injuries you kind of that linger around. But I think well, no matter what specialist you see, you just can never take their word as being gospel. Like you have to kind of thread it into yourself. So for Daniel, your back guy, he's probably 100% right with his routine would help your back, specifically like that one injury. But it just happens that because of the way that your uniqueness, it means that if you skip your normal warm up, actually the other stuff goes as well. So
Yes,
I think you have
exactly
to take
that.
everything with just a little bit
Mm.
of I don't care who they are. I don't care the kind of what pedigree these
Mm.
individuals have. I think you have to kind of piece it all together and see what works for you uniquely. At least with my back stuff over the years, I've learned that. Like I've seen consultants and specialists galore, like lists of them, and they're very, very capable, very successful people in their own right. But none of them individually could help me. I had to take bits from all of them and kind of figure out a path that works for me. And I think that Daniel, that's the same thing you've had there, right? It's not the same that back guy isn't very good and actually isn't giving you some great advice to help you in the long
Mm.
term. It just happens that he didn't quite appreciate that without your specific warm up to get you the flexibility to enable your back, because it's probably, your back was triggered probably by lack of flexibility in your hamstrings or in your glutes or in your
Yeah.
hip flexors or whatever it might potentially be. I just think it's one of those things now, right? It was especially as
You are
age kicks in.
100% right. Like I yeah, 100%. Like when he like absolutely, I believe his like. But he, by the way, he looked through my MRI. He did like an hour and a half movement assessment with me. He's a very smart guy. He was able to reproduce the pain really consistently and have me move in a way that completely took the pain away. So he knows what's going on. He's a very, very educated guy, and he's, like you say, he's a specialist around backs. But I took a couple of things too literally from him, as like that's the truth. Just do that. And the two things were that one, it would be that doing these exercises would prepare my back for working out in a better way, because they're going to help improve my long term health. And also, when I showed him my workouts, he was like, "There's a few movements in there that have the potential to antagonize your back," because he said the things that are going to antagonize your back at the moment is in the extreme flex, and I can't even remember the words, like the extension and the flex, like either side of the spectrum. And I'm doing things like a Samson stretch, and so there's some things that kind of like are definitely going to be a little bit risky. It's like I wouldn't do those things. And I was like, cool, I'll take that as gold. And I even talked about it with Jamie, and I think Jamie was a little bit skeptical around it, but he was like, let's give it a go. But the reality is I have to take responsibility for my own decisions, and I know my body the best. And I think I should have gone, well, hold on a minute. My workouts were like, I have not been injured in 18 months, and I know how important my warm-ups are. So even if there's a small amount of risk of perhaps some antagonizing my back with those movements, that is so much more important to do that warm-up than trying to kind of build that other one in for habits. So I should put it around it. And I just didn't think too much about it, and I just took his advice as absolute gold. I have to do that. And you're right, like, it would have been more useful for me to take a little bit of a step back and just go like, hold on a minute, based on what I know, how can I incorporate his advice in the right way? And I just jumped too quickly into it. Yeah.
And that's the silver lining.
Yeah. There is one other thing that came out of it, which is I think could be quite a good discussion, because I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago, and I was really surprised by this. But it's kind of making me feel better about this period where I'm not able to do as much. And it might also trigger Lewis as well in terms of how much strain he likes to do. And I like poking at that as well. It was that Max. I could never pronounce his surname. What is it? Lugavere or?
Yeah, same thing. Genius Life.
Genius Life. He's a cool guy. And he was talking to I think it's Andy Galpin or something like that. He's a pretty popular guy in the kind of strength training world. He's been on the Huberman Show and stuff like that. And they were talking about what is required to maintain muscle mass. And he was actually saying the benchmark for maintaining muscle mass is actually incredibly low. He's like, if you did one workout per 2 weeks, that would be enough to at least maintain it. It's a lot lower than you think. Like, obviously, that's not going to improve things at all. You're not going to gain anything by doing that. But actually, like he was saying, that the barrier for people to be able to kind of like not go backwards is actually quite low, which is why you don't need to jump in and do 5 days a week and just smash it, etc. Actually, if most people who were doing nothing just went to doing one training session per week, that would be incredible for them, because they would at least then push off going backwards and losing muscle and adding risk to their kind of, the long term, etc. And it made me realize, on one hand, it makes me feel a little bit better because, Rich, I know that you suffer with this as well, that as soon as you come off plan, you get really bent out of shape about it, right? And you think you're going to lose everything. And it made me realize this 6 weeks where I'm in recovery mode, I'm not going to lose everything. Like, here's what I did in the first 2 weeks. I walked for 2 weeks, but I'm still walking and moving around and doing things. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not just sitting at a chair. And then quite quickly, I'm back to doing like intervals, ring rows, things like that's actually enough to hold my head above water based on that, more than enough. And then when I go back into January, I can go back onto the improvement train. So like, yeah, I just thought that was a really interesting way of thinking about it. Like, it takes a lot more to lose your gains than I think like we all appreciate.
I
So
wish
it at least made me feel a little bit better about kind of being in this mode of like not being able to do as much. And it maybe challenges Lewis a little bit about yours around like this need to kind of like really push your body beyond its limits. And I know that's mentally really important for you, and actually uniquely your body can handle it. So that's like, I think if I was in your situation, I'd be doing exactly the same. But it does make you realize that actually you don't need to necessarily go to that extreme level. That if you take that minimum benchmark as that's what it takes to hold your head above water, even just moving halfway between that is probably a pretty solid way about improving yourself on a consistent basis. So, I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
I mean, I'm going to interject a little bit with the kind of uniqueness side of things, because I'm sure that's probably scientifically accurate. I mean, it's definitely not how I feel. And I definitely, if I haven't done a workout in a couple of weeks, I feel shit. And as in, I think I add body fat dramatically faster than that period of time. So if that'd be one piece of it. But also, like, even if I haven't worked out for, let's say, 3-4 days, I just feel sluggish and bloated and just generally just a bit rubbish. And you're right, on the OCD side, like I'm a nightmare. If I have a plan for the week and that goes off track, I get incredibly frustrated, like really fast as well. And I've got worse as I've got older. So, I plan my week out at the beginning of the week and I go, this is what I'm going to do for the week. And even if a workout shifts by a day, I really start struggling. Like if I said I'm going to do a workout, let's say I did it this week. Work's been a nightmare recently. I'm really, really busy. So I do my circuits on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, right? Because Mondays are a write-off in my world for work. So I had a workout scheduled for Tuesday, and I didn't get it done, and it was just work. I end up kind of having to go into the office like proper early in the morning. I was like, I sod it, I'll get it done this evening. I'll get back. By the time I'd actually got ready for the gym, it was kind of like, I don't know, 7:30 in the evening. I hadn't had dinner, so I was like, right, I'll quickly eat some food now, then work out afterwards. So I ate kind of 400 grams of steak and a black coffee preparing for the gym, gave myself indigestion, screwed myself over, and then felt terrible. Missed the workout. So I end up then, so here's what happens though. I am furious, and not just like a little bit like, oh, that's annoying. The difference it makes of me moving a workout from a Tuesday to a Wednesday is zero. Like zero.
How comparable was it to Lewis's Whoop rant?
Like equivalent. I think I left you a voice note, right? I think I sent Daniel a voice note at like 10 o'clock at night, just really giving out shit the fact that what a disastrous day this has been. The fact that my diet was like perfect, and I've done 10,000 steps just walking between meetings, like it was irrelevant. The fact I missed my planned workout, I was so angry that I woke up on Wednesday morning, cancelled every meeting I had Wednesday morning last minute, told everybody I'm sorry, you just have to deal with it. Purely so I could get into the gym Wednesday, do a really good session, which I then did. And then I felt fine, and then I kind of had to catch back up and everything. But yeah, like so I get Daniel. Like, I totally get it. That it's nice to know that actually you don't lose muscle mass for a couple of weeks. But I couldn't do a couple of weeks of doing nothing. I think I'd go nuts. I would
by the
not be
way,
a nice person.
this is not a call to action. This is not a call to action to work out less, right? But what it's basically saying is it's like a nice reminder that, like, okay, so actually, here's how I thought about it, and I'll go back to my analogy, which I think was like, actually, the more I think about it, I resonate with it so much, which is like, if you can end the year over the course of 12 months where you have a handful of great months, a handful of good months, and a couple of average months, you're going to move forward dramatically. And I don't even say bad months, because we're not doing bad months. Bad months would basically be not working out. We're never going to not work out, and we're never going to work out just one either, by the way. Like, an average month would probably be 2 or 3 workouts, and, some here or there on diet and a bit of stress and stuff like that, which is still in excess of the 1 workout per 2 weeks, which they said is like the minimum to kind of keep the muscle there. It was more about actually just having the right perspective and not getting too bent out of shape, because actually what we think is a disastrous off the rails moment is actually still probably falls into the category of good, not even average. And actually, it is not going to set us back. There would have to be a sustained multi-month not working out and eating like a twat to actually go backwards.
I find it super interesting.
Be somewhat of like 50% of the population.
The 1 day per week. I mean, I like Andy Galpin. I've heard him on a few different podcasts. So if he's saying it, the guy's all over the science behind it, and that makes sense. I do think cardio fitness is considerably different, though. So I think I've heard somewhere that if you stop cardio activity for like 2 weeks, you lose 30% of your.
I need to link it, because he actually said it was true across both domains. I'll find that. It's from the most recent Max episode, and I'll send the link to you.
Interesting.
Again, I don't think he's necessarily suggesting like it's cool to take a load of time off. But actually, the context was, people, if you're doing nothing and you're getting all bent of shape about what is the right thing to do, like, is it strength? Is it cardio? Should I be training like this? Should it be like, stop it. It's all analyst paralysis, or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Just start doing something small and somewhat regular, because it will make quite a big difference versus doing nothing. And that was the context of which he was talking about.
I like that.
And he was saying that, like, there's a very, very minimum threshold for cardio and strength just to hold a baseline and to not go backwards. And he said the same was true for cardio.
Do you reckon, though, that is kind of, I mean, it's typical of those things on like progression curves, right? Which is, if you right now are doing nothing, that's a true statement. But if you get fitter and fitter and fitter and fitter and fitter, that actually kind of you will degrade faster.
Yeah, that is a good point.
There might be. I don't know. I haven't looked at the data. Yeah, like I can't imagine if you're
it's still less than the 4 hours that you think, Rich.
24 hours. 24-hour limit. Yeah, no, by the way, mine is a mental thing. Like I said, all of my stuff is in my head. Like, that is my battle. My battle is all in my head, which I know that's not unusual. I think a lot of other people have as well. Look, Lewis, I know you're exactly the fucking same as well.
I'm exactly the same. I'm exactly the same. Yeah.
You know, if you and I were locked in a room and said, right, don't do any exercise at all for a week, I mean, I would not want to be anywhere near either of us, like, from a company standpoint. I would be the grumpiest arsehole. I mean, I reached that anyway. So, like, that was 7 days. Oh, no.
It's a drug for me. It's like, I get a high. I enjoy it, and I need to get my fix. I need to get my fix. So it's 100% the same. And I know it's I need to get that little feeling. And then I'm all good. Good one.
Good stuff.
Nice.
I have
Anything
nothing
else
else to say. No, I'm feeling great right now. Like, I'm in the flow again, which is lovely, after having like a 2-month, just like holidays, injuries, surgery, like being out of it. The last, 3-4 weeks have been pretty much picture perfect, which is just such a nice place to be in. So, diet completely under control, working out exactly as planned, no injuries, running lovely. So, Super
Good to
happy.
hear.
And then
Nice.
I took on Daniel's trainer about 6 weeks ago, and he played a massive role in that as well. Like he's programmed some really fun, interesting new type of workouts I haven't done before, and so thoroughly enjoying them as well, which is great.
That's awesome.
It's worked out really
Really
well.
good.
Yeah, just took me a while to get used to it, like different types of movements and whatever else. But hey, it's been fun. It's nice to have that kind of that change up where things are a bit different. So that's been great. Yeah,
Good to hear, Rich, because it was a bit sketchy 4 weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I had 6. I mean, what was most interesting is my heart rate at the beginning of August. Resting heart rate was 41, 42, fairly consistently, and then you can just see it to that point where I got back. I went in for surgery the first week of September, so I was out of the gym from middle of August due to holiday. Then I injured myself doing the Murph thingy, and there for a week, and then I had surgery, and so I didn't get back into the gym until the first week of October. And my resting heart rate in that period of time went from 42 to 47. So you can just see, which actually, Daniel, that calls into question that whole not doing much for like every 2 weeks, right? I mean, like I was still walking. I was still active, right? I did 15,000 steps on average in the month of September just to kind of compensate, but I couldn't work out properly, lift weights. But yeah, no, my resting heart rate was that's a significant decline. It's now pretty much back to where it was. It just took a consistent month being back at it. But I thought it was quite interesting.
That is. I always notice that over Christmas and the holiday period, my resting heart rate goes up just because I eat and drink too much.
Yeah.
It's funny how quickly it goes up. And actually it comes down pretty quickly as well. Because then if you do like a detox, within 2 days, it plummets. And for me anyway, it's like, I can see that I've got things back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's wrap then. Next week is alcohol with Barry. So yeah.
Keen to touch on that just before Christmas as well. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, go on, Rich.
I was going to say, do we have anyone in the group though who drinks an awful lot on a regular basis? Because we need someone like that in the group, of the chat. Because otherwise we're all a little bit biased. Daniel doesn't drink at all. Lewis, I think you and I, we only drink on kind of social occasions. We're not massively heavy drinkers all the time.
No, I think it'd be a good one for people to hear though, because I think Barry's got a really good story to tell, and I think a lot of people will probably be able to. What's the word I'm looking for? Resonate. Yeah, they'll be able to resonate with where he was at. So, yeah, it'd be a good one.
Yeah, I actually think that like between us all, there's some variations in our relationship with alcohol, and we've all landed at different points. So I think it will be a pretty cool discussion. And then the holiday period, eating and training is also good because I'm in the early stages of thinking how I'm going to get through the holiday period. Again, we will deal with that differently, and the big thing for me is just going to be like food and snacks on tap.
Murph every day
is yeah.
Eat what you like and just do a Murph every day. Done.
I have always said, I tell you what, they say you can't outrun a shitty diet, but I think if there's a time to try, it's Christmas.
You can.
You should at least give it a crack.
You can.
That's what you have to do. It's it's going to happen. Just stay really bloody active.
Just enjoy it.
And it's only 10 days.
Yeah, it's everyone's expectations that you'll be awake before everybody else to get your workout done before the rest of the family starts appearing. That's got to be that's going to be my strategy.
Exactly.
I'll be messaging you all 5:30 in the morning, Daniel. Your phone's going to be ringing. I'm going, oi, you up?
I'm in the gym.
Yeah.
Get in that gym.
I like it.
Relying on doing a workout at 4 p.m. over the holiday period is just not going to happen. Right, you're right. I think getting a solid, big, active workout in the bank really early, and then just making sure that steps are happening, and then whatever outside of that is probably my strategy. But I'll think about it more before we talk about it.
Yeah, and just stick to straight vodka. Skip the beers and just straight vodka. It's a good answer.
A glass of wine with your Christmas dinner? No, I'll have a glass of vodka. Thanks so much.
Stick to the bodies.
Chuck Whoop away.
Whoop can't be. We can't actually be.
That's the only reason that you want to do a 30-day experiment about now, Rich.
In December, absolutely.
A car crash.
No. I can't be dealing with that. And I will not be tracking calories either over that kind of Christmas week period. I don't want to know. Don't want to know.
Agreed.
Me neither. All
All
right,
right,
look, we're under an hour. Let's keep it under an hour.
Good catch up.
Have a good sleep as usual, Lewis.
Thanks, mate.
Have a good
Enjoy
drive.
the rest of your day,
Rich.
guys. Catch you guys
See you,
later.
boys.
Bye.